let's start from the beginning. January 2019, I receive a DM from this person. I'm sure you guys all know who I'm talking about. I proceeded to respond as a friend, like anyone would do, especially to someone who has so much influence in like this world today, you could say, in social media. From there, I'm gonna kind of skip over a lot and go right to this point. James then saw this as an opportunity to manipulate me as a person who may or may not have been trying to figure things out about their sexuality after the fact of telling him that I was straight multiple times. He then started to begin putting a little bit of pressure on me, of getting to know me without, like, disregarding the fact that I told him I was straight. Because, as you all know, this person, 99.9, maybe even 100% of the time, goes after heterosexual men. I told James I wasn't interested in any of that. We then stopped talking for a while. He had to shoot a video in New York City for a bit, but I was in school. He came here, he wanted to hang out. I told him I was busy. His flight got delayed, so then he saw this as a perfect opportunity to hang out, even though I told him I was busy. He then proceeded to get mad at me for not clearing my schedule to meet up, hang out, get food, chill, whatever, talk. And he went off on social media. Like, first of all, he blocked me on everything. He went off on social media, and this is the first time that I was, I guess, subtweeted about. So I was blocked on everything, and a little side note, like, he mentions a lot that he had to grow up a lot faster than everyone else around him because of how fast he grew on social media and publicly.
I have matured and grown up way faster than anybody else my age. Since we also have very similar taste in guys too.
Hot.
Masculine.
Straight. We just want what we can't have.
So he's not stupid. He's not an idiot. He knows he's going after straight boys. And he just continues to lead himself on, I guess you could say. He was aware how I felt about him. He constantly kept telling me while we were hanging out at Coachella that he appreciated that I was always 100% honest with him. If I was ever a little vague, I was never telling him what he wanted to hear, or I was never lying to him. It was always how I felt at the time, and he knew that. I'm gonna stop eating now because I'm chewing pretty loud. I'm like stress eating, I guess you could say. So he was aware how I felt about him and basically still like pursued this action. In between a week or two, I was like blocked and unblocked multiple times because maybe I wouldn't respond to his Snapchat right away, or maybe I wouldn't respond to his DM right away, or I wouldn't pick up a FaceTime call. So he then unblocked me and continued to speculate that he didn't know or that he forgot that I told him I was straight in the beginning. So then invited me to Coachella, and I denied the first time he asked me. I denied both times he asked me. He asked me like one day, and the next day after he asked me again. I said no. After I said no, he got mad again and blocked me on everything once again. So we didn't talk for probably 2 weeks. I then got in contact with him again after a few weeks and told him I did want to go to Coachella. So I ended up going to Coachella, right? Because I thought it was going to be a good time. And it was. It was an awesome weekend. Hung out with all of them. It was a blast. So I got there. We were all hanging out. We were having a good time. We go to Coachella first day, second day, all that. It was a great time. One of the best weekends of my life, not going to lie. It was a lot of fun. There was some points where I guess he was not sure how I was feeling, even though I was telling him the whole time I wasn't into, I guess you could say, experimenting at that time. He proceeded to get extremely upset with me because of that and kind of tried to play his emotions and push his emotions onto me to kind of guilt me into trying something that I didn't want to do. So after I denied any of that, he, I guess, went to Twitter again later on. So at the end of Coachella, all of his friends, I guess, came to a conclusion that I was using him. But of course, like, up front, they're gonna act like my best friends. Right as I left, he put up the tweet about the real friends and all of that stuff, which was kind of irrelevant, the tweet, but that just shows, like, you leave right away, and they're already like, I guess, talking bad about you, and they can't say it to your face, which is kind of shitty. And what's interesting is like these influencers are like chasing clout all the time. What's funny is this individual has already been involved in like 2 other major scandals, which just shows how much not even this one person, but all of them rely on scandals, you could say. This person is aware of how much money they make off of these scandals. This is not me trying to come at them. It's more or less kind of just letting you guys know all of the drama that even has occurred after this. And this person has mentioned it to me multiple times when I was there, that all of these scandals drive more engagement and more revenue, just capital on top of capital. And I think it's ironic that I'm the con artist, I'm the clout chaser. You don't think it's possible to be a clout chaser if you're the top dog, like in the industry? You could absolutely chase clout. You create the clout that you bring onto yourself through these scandals and through the drama. Thanks to you guys, I was pressured into making this second video. It was a good time. That's the tea. See you later.
Today to talk about my past with James Charles. Started off, him and about 32 other people all came into the fancy restaurant that I was working in. And they were all there for Tati's birthday. And Tati and her husband came in and they helped set up the big table and everything, so we knew that they were coming. And at that time I really didn't know who James Charles was. I recognized his face, but I didn't know who he was. So when he came in with everyone, it was kind of a big surprise. So when he came into the restaurant, I noticed him and his kind of entourage with Jeffree Star, him, so Jeffree Star, James Charles, and all of Tati's family was there at my restaurant. And throughout the night, James and his friend and everyone, they just kept looking at me, but especially James. And he was looking at me. Later on that night, he started talking to the other employees about me, asking me if I had a Valentine, because this was on Valentine's Day. And he kept asking the waiters if I was single, and that they thought I was very attractive. Or he especially thought that I was very attractive, and he wanted to get my phone number and all that. But the wait staff at my restaurant didn't let that happen. He left and it kind of just went untalked about. The next day, my sister convinced me to direct message James Charles, and I did. We can throw the screenshot up here somewhere in post. I said, "LOL, it's Sam, the busser from John Howie." John Howie's the restaurant that we worked at. He replied with OMFG, and then I replied with LMAO. Then he asked me how I was, and then you can kind of read here, he's like, "Sorry about last night, you're very attractive." And then I responded with, "It's all good," very flattering actually. Then he said, "Love that. Did not know you were 19. Oh my god, I am too." We proceeded to talk for a while. It was his last night in Seattle. He actually invited me out to his hotel. At that time, I was bi-curious. I had never done anything with a guy before, and I was curious. Later that night, he invited me out to his hotel room. When I got there, in the video, he said I was brought up by 4 security guards, but in reality, I was brought up by 1 concierge. But besides that, I get to the hotel room, we say hi, it's all fine. We end up watching a movie, and after that movie, he asked to kiss me. And I was very nervous, because I had never done anything with a guy, and I was bi-curious, so I said yes. And we ended up making out for around an hour, and if I'm being honest, he's the worst kisser I've ever kissed. Way too much tongue. Yeah, but besides that, so he didn't want me to leave from the hotel room, and he kept telling me to stay, like, please stay, don't leave me, all this and that, but I really wanted to go home. So I left, and throughout the following weeks, we kept in contact, and my birthday was coming up on the 22nd, and he wanted to fly me out to LA. And that kind of freaked me out, because at that point I was pretty sure I was straight. So I told him in a long text message that I am straight and that if he were to fly me out, I wouldn't think it was right if I wasn't attracted to him. But if he still wanted to fly me out as friends, I gave that as an option to him. So he declined my offer and canceled the flight. And that's when he got really sad and emotional. He took to social media, and his response to me was that he didn't think that I was straight. He told me, "You're not straight." Like, I'll throw up the DM conversation right here. And we kind of stopped talking after that for a little bit, and then he came back to me. He asked me for closure. After he called me for the closure conversation, he offered to fly me out again, and I declined. Because I didn't want to use him for his money or his fame. I felt that that was wrong, and that's what everyone was telling me, that it would have been wrong to go out there if I wasn't actually feeling the same way that he was. So I declined for the second time the trip to LA. He still went on to say he thought I was bisexual or gay and attracted to him when I had told him different. That pretty much went on for a long time until we kind of ended it at, "I'm legitimately not feeling anything, please stop talking to me," this and that. So in this screenshot, it shows him telling me how I felt, and luckily I screenshotted it because later on he went on to delete and unsend those messages, knowing he was in the wrong and he was guilty. So those messages in the live conversation aren't there anymore. Not only was he telling me how I felt, telling me that I was bisexual, but he was also at the same time talking to Gage. And I found this out after Gage released his video explaining his side of the story with James. And then I was just done with him. I didn't want to have anything to do with him after that, after finding out that he was kind of playing two straight guys at the same time. So we have footage of him admitting to it on FaceTime that he was in fact talking to me and Gage at the same time.
Sure, what's up?
I'm just gonna jump straight into it. So I just kind of watched the Gage thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of, in all honesty, I think you were talking to him at the same time you were talking to me.
Yeah, we were. It's like, why do you care?
It's just, I mean, how would you feel if I was talking to and hanging out with someone else while you were talking to me, right? Like, that's...
You probably were.
I wasn't. Well, thank you for listening to my side of the story and to hear what I had to say about James Charles. This isn't intended for me to get clout from this video. I don't really care, to be honest. I just wanted to kind of share my side of the story now that everyone's kind of opening up and give some more information to everyone. So, thank you for listening. Yeah. This is